going to go ahead. We're going to get started. I know we promised you guys the best 15 minutes in cybersecurity, and that's exactly what we're going to deliver. I'm going to just kind of go over a couple of things here as we get into it. First, if you guys have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen there. Toss a question there. I know we've already got one for the end. If there's an opportunity for me to answer questions kind of as we go, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if not, I'll address every question that everyone's got here at the end of the webinar. As always, you guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to run a poll for next month's webinar topic. So there's a few different poll options on there. Pick whichever one you guys want to see us dive into. And that's what we're going to go ahead and what we're going to do at next month's webinar. So let's go ahead and we're going to dive on in. So today, what we're going to show is going to be an AI agent that can handle social media posting. And what's going to be kind of unique about this one is, first of all, not only are you going to be able to see the demo live and in action, we're actually going to be able to see the end result where it gets posted when that happens. So we're calling this one here prompt to posted. But what we're going to do to kind of kick things off, I know for some of you that have been attending these webinars for a really long time, you'll remember we had a brief webinar that kind of went over what is AI capable of from a marketing perspective, and that was just 7 months ago, right? So it might seem like it's been a long time, but really that was at our July webinar. And what we talked about, what AI was capable of, was really three things. So the first thing, and you'll see there's a few note takers on this call, but AI in July was very capable of performing really easy, simple tasks. Things like note taking, things like summarizing call recordings, and kind of simple entry level ish repetitive tasks, right? That's what AI was capable of doing in July. You guys will be able to see a little bit of a juxtaposition for that when we get there at the end of this webinar. But between just really simple tasks, it couldn't really do much, it couldn't perform within software programs with any real confidence, right? AI, not even that long ago, just was pretty limited. It was able to save time. Things like brainstorming ideas, ideation, creating really basic documents, and just kind of having another, quote unquote person you could bounce ideas off of, right? It wasn't really capable of putting a lot of those ideas into action, but if you wanted to brainstorm something, AI was a really great place to do it. And it lets you kind of get the bad ideas out of the way without necessarily having to run them by anybody, right? Kind of see things that maybe weren't working or maybe weren't planning to work, but being able to kind of test those in a secure environment. And the third thing AI was really good at doing 7 months ago, you can see I put a question mark at the end of this one. And we said, is it really good at marketing? Was kind of the way that we approached that. The answer is it really good at marketing 7 months ago was kind of. AI was capable of suggesting messaging, of very basic personalization ideas and personalization suggestions. That's where you see a lot of those, hey, insert first name, hello industry, right? Those were the kind of things that AI was capable of doing 7 months ago, but it wasn't able to really customize things beyond that. It never sounded quite like you, and it never really sounded quite like the brand, if you want to find a phrase for it, quite the way it should, right? I mean, it's capable of doing pretty entry level marketing, market research, but it struggled to go beyond what would be kind of considered a little bit of general or almost generic content suggestions, right? I mean, it was good to bounce ideas off of, it was good to find things that weren't going to be bad, but how good was it really? Fast forward to today, what can AI do now? Well, as we've kind of talked about a little bit last time, 85% of AI rollouts fail. And a lot of that's because there's this disconnect between what it in theory should be able to do and what AI can do right now. And what we're going to show you guys at the end of this demo here, at the end of the slide, is going to be a little bit of what AI can do now. And what we're going to show you is an AI agent capable of examining existing content. You no longer have to update every single message to sound like you. Something that 7 months ago wasn't really possible is possible now. It's able to loop a human in, right? Keep a human in the loop. Let AI do the legwork while you boil marketing messaging down to a simple thumbs up, thumbs down approach. You're going to see that here in action in a little bit. And then this is the coolest, in my opinion, and perhaps most important part, but it's actually able to post the content itself. So AI, really, since it's come out, was pretty good at it's going to give you ideas, it's going to give you suggestions. If you tell it what to say, it'll refine and rephrase things a little bit. But it was always one of those deals where, hey, you've got to copy the response and you've got to go post it somewhere. That's what people are getting busted with. A lot of the M dashes, right? That have been a pretty big thing out in the marketing community. But it still wasn't able to post what it created. Now it's capable of doing that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch a little bit. Now we've talked a little bit of what AI can do, and we're gonna show you. So this right here is our Buffer is the name of the social media platform we use here, but it's a social media agent and poster. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do what is going to be pretty basic social post creation and getting ideas and going ahead and posting the content. So something that's kind of important to note here with this is a social media agent that we built to sound like Silicon Plains, to create messaging like Silicon Plains, have the same tone, the same style as everything we've posted on our social medias before, with a special emphasis on, hey, what are things we've done in the last 30 days? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of run through this as if we were managing the marketing for Silicon Plains. This is the actual process we use, but just to take you guys behind the scenes a little bit, this is how it would work, in theory, in your business as well, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to say, hey, I need social media ideas. Give me, let's just say 10 options, right? That's, you can see one I've asked before in the history there, but what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and say, hey, I need to post something. It already knows what I typically post. Just give me some options. I want to be able to take a look at a few just kind of broad topics. Maybe there's something that I've got in mind. Maybe it's something that I want to bring to the forefront. Maybe I'm kind of bandying around the idea of some type of new initiative, but it's going to go ahead and it's going to look at all the things I've posted in the last 30 days, and it's going to give me suggestions for similar content. You can see here all 10 of these. We give out tech tips, we feature employees, we provide commentary on things in the industry. We upload product demo clips just like this webinar, right? So you can see it's doing a really good job of mixing in with the kind of things that we want to do. You can see that there's no there's no big event planning, right? There's no things that we don't typically do in our regular social posting that's involved here. So we're going to go ahead. My kind of favorite one of these here is the tech tips. We tend to get really good engagement on there. You can see that's labeled number 3. So I'm going to say, hey, give me a few options for number 3. So that's going to go ahead and it's going to tell it, hey, I want a few more of these tech tip ideas. Go ahead and write them out for me. And it's going to go ahead, it's going to do that. So now here it's coming and it's going to say, hey, these are tech tip ideas with 3 actionable posts. You can see it cites the sources that it's being inspired from. So for all of these here, you can see it is tying back to different parts of our website. This one's a blog. This one's a blog. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to say, hey, I know you guys have blogs written on these similar topics. It's been a little bit since we posted on social media for these kind of things. Let's go ahead and here are the 3 suggestions. I think since we are talking about balancing automation with human touch right now a little bit on the webinar, let's go ahead and let's get that one done. So I'm going to say post number 1 for me. Nope, you can see I've clearly done it before. Post number 1 for me. So what that's going to do now is it's going to go ahead and it's going to create that post. And actually the poster, the place that we have this going to right now is tied to my LinkedIn. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, hey, post number 1 for me. It's going to say, which profile do you want? Here's my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to post that. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to transition screens here in just a moment. We're going to see how it posted. Assuming it'll load. Should pull up here momentarily. I guess we'll maybe have to let that load here off to the side. It certainly is being slow, but what it's doing now is it's going to go ahead and it's going to try and post that to my social media, to that LinkedIn to that LinkedIn account here. Okay, perfect. Here we go. So on my other screen here, I'm just going to transition. We use kind of like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, we use a social posting tool just because we have something like 7 or 8 accounts out into the world that we post to. So you can see it's going to go ahead and it's got that scheduled. So I created this a minute ago. Yes, this is going to go out on my LinkedIn account today at 6:09 p.m. And you see here, it's exactly that message that we had originally wanted to send out. So the important thing to emphasize here is this was one social media post within one channel, right? One platform, if you will. This is only going to my LinkedIn. I wanted to kind of just have something that was a clean slate for this demo, for this demo environment. But this can go out to dozens of social media channels all at once, different people, different accounts, different companies. Maybe it's a sales team across different locations in the US. Maybe it's going to be messaging one message for everybody, right? That might be dozens of accounts, Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, right? Absolutely everything that you can think of, LinkedIn. But what's important to note here is that let's go back here to when we first started this line of questioning. Let's see here. I suppose it's not going to give me a time. We've been on a call here for just under 11 minutes. In about 5 of those minutes, we went from I need social media ideas to hey, it's scheduled to go out today without ever having to go into LinkedIn, without ever having to go into Facebook, without ever having to go in and tweak anything, to make any changes. We saw as I rolled through here, there were no changes made because it already sounds like the way we market, like the way we advertise ourselves. It's all based off, if you look at these here, they're all built off of free value ads, behind the scenes, customer success stories. It highlights the same things we highlight as a brand at Silicon Plains because it's been trained only to sound and talk like us. That's where, and I know we're a little bit early here for the Q&A, but I did see a question get submitted before things got kicked off. And that question was, how is this different than me using ChatGPT? And the answer is systems and AI solutions like a ChatGPT are designed to all kind of sound a little bit the same, if that makes sense. So one of the downsides to basing everything off of a large language model is that every single person using that same large language model is going to generally get the same feedback. Whereas if you use a solution like this and train it to sound like you, to talk like you, the day we turn it on, the day it gets implemented for you and your team, it already speaks and operates the way that you do, right? So it captures all of that brand identity, all the time you've spent building up what your company means in the marketplace. All those kind of things stay in place. All you're doing now is having somebody else come up with the messaging. And of course, you can do exactly the way we did it on this post here, where in under 5 minutes or so, we took a post all the way through to post it out on the internet. So I tell you what, I know we're a couple minutes ahead of schedule here, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, hey, why don't you come up with 30 posts so I can do something for the whole month? I'm going to say, hey, can you give me 30 social media posts? And I want, we'll say 3 for each of the original 10. So again, and this is where it's really important to how do you talk to an AI agent, right? If you say, give me 30, it's going to just give you 30 of possibly the exact same kind, right? They might give you 30 tech tips. It might give you 30 behind the scenes options. It might give you 30, whatever category you chose. But if you tell it, hey, I want 3 for each of the original 10 ideas you came up with, well, now it's going to come back and it's going to give you, yes, that full list of 30, but instead it's going to make it very varied, right? You're going to get 3 for each kind of theme of social media post. And this may ultimately, since I'm sharing my screen, oh, there we go. Perfect. So here you go, what it's doing here. Well, it's going to generate all of these, so I won't keep scrolling with it as it goes, but oh, there we go, right? We might be all done. So here, now it's laying out, here are all the different suggestions, right? Here's a snapshot of today's sprint planning wall. Here's some behind the scenes ideas. Here's some customer success stories that have been pulled from our blogs and other things that we've done. Hey, here are 3 tips. Here are 3 different ways we can introduce employees, right? So you can see here, it's going to give you a whole bunch of ideas to plan out 30 days of posting. We can go ahead and in probably 5-10 minutes, when we talk about just some things that we've sponsored locally and we toss in some employee names to give our team a little bit of hype, or maybe kind of refine these poll questions a little bit, we can produce a whole month's worth of social media marketing and have it posted itself without us ever touching the tools that we would need to, traditionally use to do that. We can do that in about 5-10 minutes, right? So it's a very, you know, modern, very updated tool, something that didn't even really exist, 5, 6, 7 years ago, or 5, 6, 7 months ago, excuse me. Definitely wasn't around 5, 6 years ago. But you can see now we've been able to take the entire social media planning process, and it's all been boiled down and completed here in the course of, well, I'm at 16 minutes now, but in about 15-20 minutes, you can now plan social media posting for a month and have it actually post. You're not just getting good brainstormed ideas back now from AI. You are getting actual work done. It can, sorry, I just got a question here in the Q&A, but it can complete work for you now that wasn't possible. So we're going to jump into the Q&A here. I know that kind of wraps up that first half of the 15 minutes. I've got a couple of questions that were submitted in the Q&A, and another couple that were submitted ahead of time. But the first question was, how is this different than using ChatGPT? We answered that a little bit, but when you use ChatGPT, it's important to keep in mind that you are essentially borrowing what is a summary of the internet. Basically, that's maybe not the most technical way to put it, but the ideas that you're going to get back, the feedback you're going to get, the things that ChatGPT is going to tell you to strive for are generally the same as what everybody else who's using ChatGPT is going to get back. The other thing that you got to consider is that ChatGPT does not have the same security cloud over it that a tool like Microsoft does, right? I mean, there is a reason why ChatGPT is free, right? That's because anything that you give it, it's going to keep for itself, and it's going to use to train that existing large language model to get better. This tool Silicon Plains puts in place for you, that data never leaves your individual copilot, which means you can put more important, more critical information into it, and it's not going to be sent anywhere. That data stays within your network. But it also means that it's going to sound more like you than any other tool out there. And that's a couple of important things to keep in mind. So the first question I got submitted here is, what guardrails are in place to prevent brand or compliance issues? And I think it's really important to, when it comes to answer a question like that, these agents that we build here only know what we explicitly tell it knows. And what I mean by that is this: if you have brand guidelines, if you have things that you always say, maybe things that you don't say, maybe you always use a certain amount of hashtags, maybe it never should have hashtags, right? Those are just really elementary examples. But whatever we put in place for brand guidelines stays in place and never leaves that individual agent, right? So if there are really important legal requirements, really important HR requirements, even if they're, industry applied requirements, we build that into the agent itself to where it can only say certain things, to where it knows those guidelines and those guardrails. And that's part of the benefit to working with Silicon Plains is if you are ever reviewing, or when you ever, like we did here, where I said, hey, yep, that looks good, post it. And you see something where you go, I don't know if that meets the brand guidelines. We build into our agents the same way that it referenced back to Silicon Plains blogs, that's where it pulled that data from. We can do the same thing with compliance and brand guidelines. So we can actually set these agents up and train them to where if there's even something that you see and you go, hey, I don't know if that's over the line or not, but I'm concerned it might be close, you can have it reference the handbook or whatever, you want to call them, policies, procedures, whatever, that format looks like, and ask it, hey, I'm pretty sure this violates brand guidelines. Does it? And have it say, no, it doesn't. And here's where in the handbook I know that's true, or yes, it does. And that's where you contact, us and have us fix that, right? So that's part of the the deal, if you will, right, with working with Silicon Plains. And I hope that answers that question. That was submitted anonymously, but if not, toss another question or follow-up question in the Q&A, and I'll try and get that answered. Next question I've got here is, how has this system impacted our KPIs? And I think there's a couple of ways that I would approach that, right? So it, first of all, it allows us to consistently and accurately post social media content. I think, one of the things that is important to keep in mind is that the KPIs every business looks at are a little bit different. At Silicon Plains, we operate and sell direct to business, right? We don't really do anything residential. So that means that our KPIs are much more focused on brand awareness and on, hey, how many new businesses learned about us or got in touch with us through this system, right? And so that's an important thing to keep in mind. For us, having an AI system like this has not only, more than doubled or tripled the amount of new businesses that we're getting put in front of. Most of that, I would say, is a quality improvement because we no longer just have nothing social media posts go out there, right? Everything has a purpose. Everything has been thought out by this AI system, but it's also allowed us to do that consistently. We post every single day a unique message across 7 social media profiles, and each one gets timed up to post at that profile's like the ideal time. So what that means is that we might be posting something from a company account at 9:15 a.m. every day, because for some reason on Tuesdays at 9:15 a.m., that's the best time to post there. But that post is not only going to be different and unique, but it's going to be at a different time for our sales reps out of our Denver office, right? Obviously, they're working at Mountain Time. So it's not as simple as necessarily, hey, you turn this on and you're going to go viral, right? That's not what we're looking at here. What we're looking at here is we can boil down what we know is an important marketing and sales function for Silicon Plains, and we can have this bad boy set up to run automatically the first of every single month with a whole month of unique content for 7 social media profiles, give or take 22 business days a month. We're talking about, 154, if my math is right, social media posts that are unique and different, generated in minutes, right? That's the kind of thing that used to take, honestly, like a full-time person just to spend a lot of their time doing, or outsourcing to an agency, right? So it's not only is it about the KPIs, but it's important to keep in mind this type of system builds consistency. The message is the same, the tone is the same, the way it approaches people is the same, the type of content you post is the same, and you're always doing it without having to actually, do it. So hopefully that answers that question there. So one question we just got here is, could I use this to replace my marketing company? And my answer is going to be couched a little bit. And so what I'm going to say is, if your marketing company is only doing, things like social media posting, blog posting, lead generation, client follow-up, yes, absolutely. What I will say is going to be harder for AI to replicate because it doesn't know really local markets as well as things like, hey, should we do a TV commercial? Should we place a billboard out on the, on the billboard that heads out of Main Street here in Bismarck? So I would say, depending on what you're using your marketing company for, absolutely, right? I will say there's the thing that makes this solution so unique is that it's trained only on the existing brand things you have out there, your website, posts you've done before. It sounds like you right away. It answers questions with facts that it knows about you right away. And it doesn't hallucinate anything because it only knows the things that you've already put out there for your brand. So it typically tends to be a lot smoother learning curve than trying to get copy back and forth from a marketing company. Where maybe they have ideas of what your brand means to them and what you have out there and what you should have out there. It does a much better job of just getting up and running with good quality content, even if it maybe doesn't know all the intricacies of, hey, we should do a TV ad in the Bismarck market this Thursday at 7 p.m. around a high school basketball game, right? So I'd say it can replace the majority of work you're doing with a marketing company right now, but maybe not the entire partnership, depending on what that partnership looks like. Oh, perfect. Lots of good questions here today. I see I've just got just one more here, and that question is, how can this tie into other, marketing systems that we have, right? That's a question I actually got asked in person at an event today. So, what I would say is this year, what we've shown is one piece, right? One button, if you will, of an entire keyboard of AI solutions, to use a very strained but technology-based analogy. So I would say, agents like this we can have as part of a bigger AI process or totally standalone, right? We can tie it into any type of, however you're posting things now, if it's direct to Facebook, if it's direct to LinkedIn, if you use some type of third-party platform, obviously we can do that too. Or even if it's part of some type of CRM system that you're using, it can be part of the holistic strategy that you have. And in my opinion, it's probably the best place to get started because it's going to be the lowest barrier of entry, right? Generally speaking, unless you're, really involved in some type of serious, Twitter feud, right? Social media is a great place to do test messaging, to try things, to get reactions, to find the ideal time to post, right? And it doesn't have a long-term impact on your business the same way maybe, turning over changes to your website might, turning that over to AI. So it's a great place to start, but it can also be the building block that you tie in more marketing solutions, more marketing uh, tasks into a solution like this. Maybe it starts social media posts, and then it also writes the blogs, and then it can also, create marketing materials around events, right? And these things kind of build on top of themselves. But it all starts with where you're comfortable, and I think something like this is definitely the way to do it. Perfect. Well, I've got just a couple more minutes here yet before we totally run out of time. So if there's any other questions, please, submit them in here. While I'm just kind of waiting to see if there are any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and talk about next month's webinar. I'm trying to get the poll results pulled up here if I'm capable of that. Okay, perfect. So about 60% of you voted to have the AI assistant be the topic of next month's webinar. So next month, Tuesday, February 24th, 3 p.m. Central, same place. We're going to go ahead and we're going to showcase some pretty cool AI assistant kind of solutions that we have. It is a great way to experiment with AI without having to have it perform a complicated action, right? So if you are just interested in kicking the tires, see what it's going on, what can it do, how can it make, my job, my company, right, more effective. It's a little more broadly applicable. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to have that locked in as the topic. We're going to showcase some AI assistants next month. With that, I'm just going to do one final check here. Okay, cool. I do have one question here. It says, I missed the first few minutes. Is this part of Microsoft Copilot Advanced? And the answer is yes, right? So this agent that we've showcased here is an agent that we build within your existing Microsoft environment that gets distributed through Copilot. We do that for a lot of different reasons. The biggest one is obviously as a cybersecurity company at heart, if you will. There's a lot of security advantages. First of all, anything you put into this type of Copilot system doesn't get fed back into the large language model. That's really important. Second thing is when it exists within your Microsoft, license and security environment, if there ever were to be some type of security concern that were to come up, right? You already almost certainly have systems and plans in place to be able to turn off access to those kind of Microsoft things. These agents can fall into that bucket as well. And of course, if you don't, or if you have any questions, Silicon Plains is here to help you with that. But it also allows us to tie these agents into the whole array of Microsoft products. Excel, Word, Outlook calendar. It allows us to tie all of these things together without having a weird, sign in things, without having multi-factor things, without having to struggle with credentials the same way you would if you turned it into a different product. It allows it all to seamlessly operate in one place, and it allows us to fix any security concerns that might come along with it. So yes, to answer your question, this is part of Microsoft Copilot. If you've got any questions, I'm available here and I'll be sending out a recap with the recording of this one. Would love to chat with anybody who's got any questions, but these are agents that we build out here as Copilot agents. and then distribute and manage out to people who, maybe have the itch to get things started out with AI, but don't know how to go about designing, complicated agents that can perform complex tasks. And then if they do, what are the security concerns and things that need to be put in place for that? So that is, yeah, that is what we're doing here. Perfect. Well, that answers all the questions. We've got next month's topic wrapped up. I've officially hit 3:30, which is the absolute max that we want these things to go, 15 minutes and then 15-minute Q&A. So with that, everybody, I want to thank you all very much for attending. I'll look for the recap email that comes out. And if you guys have any questions, of course, Silicon Plains is here to help. Thanks, guys.